This little line right here has caused me more anxiety than any exam I've ever taken. The tip line, the judgment zone, the place where you prove whether you're a good person or not exactly winning at social etiquette, depending on what percentage you write down. That's in the US, of course.
But for a lot of people living across borders, tipping culture is one of those everyday things that can feel totally intuitive or totally baffling.
Last week, I bought a bottle of water at the airport. The tablet spun around with suggested tips. 25% of water? What service was this tip rewarding? Successfully scanning a barcode? I mean, the water was already $7, but your girl tipped anyway because the cashier was watching and I have anxiety about disappointing total strangers. Why do we tip 20%? And who decided that anyway? The very weird origins of tipping. Tipping actually started in medieval Europe when wealthy patrons would give extra gratuities to servants, not to their own, but other people's, as a way to display their status. It was basically the medieval version of buying private islands. When Americans visited Europe in the 1850s and 60s, they saw this tipping custom and thought, how sophisticated, how European, and they brought it back to America to seem worldly. As you can imagine, Americans kinda hated it. Lest we forget the whole taxation without representation, Boston Tea Party, and no extra fees please in our national DNA. There were actual anti-tipping societies. And yes, also the secret name I call my parents and their friends at Brunch Club. Some states passed laws against tipping in the early 1900s with fines or penalties for leaving gratuities. The argument was that tipping was undemocratic. It created dependence on wealthy people's whims rather than fair wages, which kind of a decent point, honestly. But here's where it gets complicated. After the Civil War, many employers avoided paying fair wages to newly freed black workers by making them depend on tips instead. Tipping became a way to shift the burdens of wages from employers to customers. It wasn't about rewarding good service, it was about avoiding paying actual salaries. How America became Tip Nation. By the 1920s, tipping was already becoming entrenched, and prohibition reinforced the system. When restaurants lost their alcohol profits, they embraced having customers subsidize wages through tips even more.
The Fair Labor Standards Act created the minimum wage in 1938, but in 1966, they introduced a special tipped wage exemption. Workers who got tips could be paid less, way less. Today, the federal tipped minimum wage is only $2.13 an hour.
This wage hasn't increased since 1991. Meanwhile, the social expectation went from 10% in the 1950s to 15% in the 1980s and to around 20% today, though it still varies by city and type of restaurant. Some places now suggest 25% or 30%. I mean, at this rate, by 2050 we'll be tipping more than the actual meal costs. But here's the really confusing part. We only tip certain people. Fast food workers doing similar work, usually no. Your dentist doing your yearly checkup, no. Online hosts for a financial-focused web series? No. Okay, alright. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, while America was developing its unique tipping culture, other countries went in completely different directions. In Australia, servers make a living wage, around $20 to $25 an hour minimum. Tipping is appreciated, but not expected. In France, service is included in the price. It's literally called service compris. You might leave a few euros for exceptional service, but nobody's judging if you don't, except for maybe an American study abroad student who just picked up a part-time service job, thinking they'd be raking in the tips. In Japan, tipping isn't customary and can actually cause confusion. The cultural norm is that good service is the standard, already built into the price. If you leave money on the table, they might think you forgot it and try to return it. My friend visited Tokyo and tried to tip at a restaurant, but the server just looked confused and then concerned and then got the manager, and suddenly there were 3 people trying to figure out if something was wrong with the bill.
In Iceland, tipping isn't expected. Service is included in wages. In China, tipping was uncommon and even discouraged for many years, though it's becoming more accepted in tourist areas.
In South Korea, tipping in restaurants isn't customary and may be seen as unnecessary since service is considered part of the job. The psychology of the tip. Here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Studies suggest that tip amounts often have little to do with actual service quality. People tend to tip more when it's sunny. They tip more if the server draws a smiley face on the check, less if they draw an angry face. Okay, that last one was my speculation.
Research indicates everything from the server's appearance to the color of their clothing to their posture can influence tipping.
Oh, more bad news for slouchers. The point is, we're not always making rational service-based decisions. We're influenced by subconscious factors we don't even realize. Studies suggest that even the design of payment interfaces influences tipping. The angle of the screen, the order of suggested amounts, even the size of the buttons.
But wait until you hear about tip creep. How we went from tipping servers to tipping almost everywhere, including
self-service, or tipping machines for letting us do the work ourselves. I think this is the robot takeover we were warned about. Though honestly, if they start paying rent, I might reconsider my position. The expansion of expectation. American coffee shops started normalizing counter tipping in the 90s with those tip jars with clever signs, which I loved because 1, clever joke, and 2, easy to offload loose change. Then came the tablet revolution. Suddenly, every transaction involves a screen flip with suggested tips starting at something like 15%. And the social pressure is real. The employee is standing right there, other customers are waiting, and you have to make a split-second decision about your generosity. The pandemic expanded tipping as people wanted to support workers during difficult times, which was genuinely wonderful. But that's not the only reason that tipping in American culture has become so widespread today. The economics of expectations. Here's what's happening, especially in restaurants. Sometimes the American tipping system essentially covers wages. The real price of labor is then paid through tips, and workers depend on customer generosity for some of their income. The average server in America makes somewhere in the high 20,000s annually, but this varies enormously by location and type of establishment. High-end urban restaurants, servers might do very well. Small-town diners, they might struggle even with the tips. As of now, 7 US states have eliminated the separate tipped minimum wage. Servers make the same base pay as other workers. For a country known for overthinking the tip line, this kind of shift might just change everything. Or at least give us a better answer when friends ask, wait, you tip for that? Navigating the global tip maze.
So how do you navigate tipping when every country has different norms? I made myself a reference guide after several awkward international moments.
In the USA, 18 to 20% for table service is standard, though it varies by city. Canada, similar to USA. Mexico, 10 to 15% at restaurants, but check if service is included. UK, 10 to 12% at restaurants unless service is added. Japan and South Korea, not customary, don't feel obligated, but you should wash your hands before eating. China, generally not accepted, though tourist areas may differ. India, 10% is becoming common in cities. Dubai, often included, but extra is appreciated. Australia and New Zealand, not expected, but rounding up is friendly. And most of Europe, service often included, perhaps leave small change. You don't get coffee thrown at you like I would have expected.
My approach? Especially when traveling, just watch what locals do. If they leave money, I leave money. If they don't, I don't.
I guess that doesn't help much in America though, where the tipping rules seem to change depending on the establishment, the city, and possibly the phases of the moon. The future of tipping. Some restaurants are rethinking tipping altogether, building wages into menu prices and simplifying what guests are expected to do. It's not about eliminating appreciation, it's about designing systems that work more predictably for everyone involved. But change is complex. Some workers value tips as a way to earn more. Others say they trade that uncertainty for stable, consistent pay. And many customers still like the sense of control that tipping gives them, even if the total cost stays the same. Americans have become so accustomed to this system that changing feels odd, even if the change means more change. Come on, you knew that pun was coming. At the end of the day, we're all just figuring it out. And like most things involving money and culture, there's no one right answer. Conclusion.
Tipping started as a flex, turned into a workaround, and now it's a full-blown guessing game in many parts of the US.
Until that changes, I'll keep tipping 20% at restaurants and slightly less at counter service. I'm not tipping robots. They don't even use money. Yet.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more content that tackles topics that I think are worth discussing. Drop a comment with what you'd like to see next. I'm always up for covering something new.